Remember, remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
Well, today, which is the 5th of November 2016, is the celebration. It's Guy Fawkes Day. It's the celebration of the 411th anniversary of the attempt to blow up Parliament and the King in 1605 by a fellow named Guy Fawkes and co-conspirators. There was no conspiracy theory about it. There were co-conspirators, and these guys were English Catholics who were vehemently opposed to the Protestant reign in England of James the First of England, James the Sixth of Scotland, same guy, who succeeded Queen Elizabeth, to the throne of England. And Guy Fawkes, also known as Guido Fawkes, was an English Catholic who had fought in the Spanish army against English forces in the Dutch army in the 80 Years' War, the Dutch revolt against Spain. And if you want me to get into that in great detail, I can, but it takes a lot of time to explain why the Spaniards were fighting in the Netherlands against the Dutch. But he was in a regiment. Guy Fawkes was in an English regiment under the command of William Stanley, which had basically sold Devonshire to the Spaniards, and they switched sides. And so Guy Fawkes he was an ensign, or an ensign, became an alferez in the Spanish army in Stanley's regiment. And in fact, he went to Spain to try to convince Philip III to support him and his co-conspirators in this attempt to blow up Parliament and James the First. Philip III actually wanted nothing to do with it. Philip III was actually a fairly non-offensive king. He was, and I mean that in several ways, but he was interested in peace with the Netherlands, and in fact, he negotiated several years, like a 20-year peace between the Netherlands and Spain within this 80 Years' War. At any rate, not finding any support from Spain, Fawkes and his co-conspirators went back to England, and in fact it was in Spain where he took the name Guido as opposed to Guy, but Guy being a French name, I guess it would be pronounced Guy in French. Anyway, he's Guy. So they're going to blow up Parliament. They rent the basement of Parliament. You could do that. For some reason it was allowed to rent this basement, the undercroft of Parliament, and they filled it with barrels of gunpowder. And Guy Fawkes was supposed to be the guard there. In fact, he was the guard there. And a night watchman sort of noticed, what the heck is this guy doing here? And started questioning him, and he got answers that he didn't like. And so they arrested Guy Fawkes, not long before Parliament was supposed to be opened by the King, and prevented the whole, prevented them from setting light to these, several hundred pounds of gunpowder, which would have literally blown Parliament sky high, along with the King. He was tortured until he gave the names of his co-conspirators. They were captured, and they also gave names of other people who may or may not have actually been involved, but the names were given, and so it's considered to be a fairly, widespread conspiracy. Guy Fawkes was convicted of treason, and he was sentenced to be hanged, drawn, and quartered along with his Confederates. However, it was January 31st of 1606 when he was supposed to be executed. He actually fell off the scaffold and broke his neck. So they weren't able to actually, I mean, they still drew and quartered him, but he was already dead when they did that. So, he didn't actually have to suffer from that, but I think his friends did.
They made an example of it.
Yeah, the traitors are usually made examples of. Not always, but usually. The old saying of, if you have a chance to shoot your enemy or a traitor, shoot the traitor. The enemy may actually be honorable, but a traitor is not. The kids used to run around making up these guys. It was a stuffed, like almost like a
effigy.
Yeah, an effigy, a straw man, and a penny for the guy, and they, burn him in effigy. It was a way to convince everybody that Catholics were evil and that the Protestant cause was a good one, and that we're all the underdogs here. And so kids would run around extorting money out of strangers, just like Halloween. You extort candy from strangers, and so a penny for the guy. And in fact, the term guy for a long, long time meant an ugly fellow, a guy, because these effigies were ugly. And so a guy, if you called somebody a guy in like 17th or 18th century, it was like, ooh, some ugly fellow. And eventually it became, hey guy, or you guys, things like that. But that's where the term you guys, or a guy, comes from. It's from Guy Fawkes, some chap is a guy, but it came from this ugly, effigy that they were going to go burn. Great fun. Let's burn him in effigy.
And now it's just like the 4th of July in the United States. A lot of people don't really think about why they're celebrating it. It's just an excuse to light off fireworks and make a big fire.
Right, and have a barbecue. Just like, or Memorial Day. Nobody recognizes the fact that it was the end of the Civil War that was being celebrated. Memorial Day or Veterans Day. Just an excuse for a barbecue.
Bad cat.
Meow.